a tribute to the great man himself, Mr. Amber Trott. And so I want to start off by reading something that was published by the Nevis Historical and Conservation Society, which is a tribute to the great man Amber Trott. It is with great sadness that the Society shares the news of the passing of Mr. Amber Trott in the early hours of Thursday, 9th September, peacefully at his home in Nevis, just weeks after celebrating his 94th birthday. We extend our most heartfelt condolences to his family and loved ones. Amber Trott was born in Montreal, Canada in 1927 to Marion Knight of Nevis and William Trott of New York. Both his parents played leading roles developing various projects in the black community, and in 1942 the family was among the founding members of Montreal's Negro Theatre Guild. Amber appeared in the Guild's first production of Mark Connolly's Green Pastures and subsequently Eugene O'Neill's The Emperor Jones, which won top honors at the Quebec Regional Drama Festival. As an actor, Amber appeared in many productions in Montreal and Toronto and worked with Toronto's Crest Theatre as well as CBC Radio and Television in 1966. CBC Radio and Television. In 1966, he directed A Better Man, a Caribbean musical drama. Its success drove his interest in developing a West Indian extravaganza, sparking the creation of Toronto's Caribana to celebrate Canada's centennial in 1967. Since 1950, his family owned and lived in Hamilton House, which stands adjacent to the Society's office and museum in Charlestown. In 1985, Amber returned to his maternal home Nevis, staying active writing and directing plays. In 1987, he created a major musical show for the Society, Horatio, in commemoration of the bicentenary of the marriage of Admiral Nelson and Fanny Nisbet in Nevis, which received a mention in the New York Times. In 1988, Amber turned the family home into a center for creative arts, offering training and showcasing local talent. In 2011, the Trott family sold a historic wooden house to the Society, now restored. It houses the Alexander Hamilton House Museum. In 1994, Amber began authoring an opinion column, Trott Talk, in the weekly St. Kitts and Nevis Observer on subjects ranging from secession, racism, noise pollution to Caribbean culture. In 2003, he began compiling his writings and in June 2005 published Nothing But Nonsense in Nevis. Copies of his book are available in the museum gift shop. He also hosted the radio program Artistic License on Choice FM. In 2013, he was named Observer Person of the Year. Amber was a vocal and unwavering supporter of Nevisian arts and culture, and his memory will live on in the important legacy he left behind, especially in the preservation of historic Hamilton House. Amber will be greatly missed, but his warmth, kindness, and gentle spirit will be remembered forever. A memorial event is being planned and details will be announced soon. The family requests that donations can be made in his memory to the Society. And so we just pause a moment to remember Amber Trott. Your thoughts based on your interactions with Amber, Dawson, and then we'll get Lilith involved if she has ever met the great man. So talk to me, Dawson.
Mr. Trott, I would have met him in person at least once or twice in passing. Didn't know him that closely, but knowing him and interacting, he was a rather gentle soul. And I could see that. Well, I remember seeing him first. I saw him on television. He was doing I think he was playing Hamilton, as you mentioned in that write-up. And I see the passion that he has had for heritage, even though he's not a born division, but his roots. Want to see the heritage. He's one of those champions of Nevision heritage, and he will be missed. And when you read that, I was nothing but nonsense. That book, I remember that book. I think I need to get a copy of that book.
Yes.
I need to get a copy of that book because I'm sure there are a lot of amusing stuff inside there.
Yeah, he had a keen sense of humor as well.
So I think I need to. I remember that book being mentioned, and now I read that, it refreshed my memory about the book. So I think I need to, in his memory, get a copy of that book and read it, because that is a legacy right there. That is part of his legacy, whatever what he has contributed, including that. So he will be missed. I'm sure he will be missed. I mean, I saw that information. I said, rest in peace, and he will be missed. And I hope that the legacy that he left behind will be something that will last, and will go in the echelons of Nevis history.
Nice. Lilith, good afternoon. We were just pausing a moment to just to remember the great man Amber Trott. I don't know if you have had any interactions with Amber, and your thoughts.
I did have interaction with Amber Trott, mostly from work perspective. And from what I could remember, he is a very gentle soul and a free spirit. And yes, he was passionate about heritage. I think the whole reason why he purchased Hamilton House was to ensure that it remained with Nevisians. And over the years that I've had to connect with him, it had to been about heritage protection or environment or something of that nature. I think it was a friend of mine who brought my attention to his work as a poet, and we would read the pieces he would put in the newspaper. And I remember there was a section, there was a poem of him eating a mango. and at first, when the chap started reading, I'm thinking, oh, what's wrong with this guy? And as he went on, he said, get your mind out the gutter, the mango is good. And this was the kind of person he was. I think we should remember him with a smile on our face, because he was such a friendly and gentleman.
And what I liked about him, though, despite being a gentle soul, as we have said, and that smile, that eternal smile, when he had to talk and be a radical, he could be radical.
Okay,
I mean, he'll speak out on issues with a passion. Yeah. So that's one of the things I admired with him. He wouldn't trouble anybody. He wouldn't be the type to go and trouble people. But when he had an opinion, he was never afraid to voice that opinion. And I like that about the man.
Very good.
Okay, Lynette, could you give us a bit of an update since the last time we were here? Because I know we have some deadlines to meet and all that kind of stuff.
We have just one deadline to meet. We have to complete all our tentative lists by the end of this month.
Okay.
And have them submitted by the end of this month. And that is what we're working to accomplish.
Okay.
There are gaps that we are filling at this time, and one of them has to do with a preparation of a analysis of our sites, comparative analysis, not in depth, but some discussion as to why our site should be included on a tentative list when compared to other Caribbean sites.
Okay.
And that is a contract was issued. Independent contractor was secured for that write-up by the Ministry of Social Services.
Okay.
So we are all working to hand in everything as we planned by the end of this month.
And that's like September the 30th, right? Everything has to be in.
Yes.
And this is one of those months when you have a day shot, so you have to.
Well, for us,
31st.
For us, we work all the time, so most of the work is done on weekends and evenings.
Yeah, that's true.
So we're always working around the clock.
Just for a recap, though, because I know that every week they might have some new listeners. I just mentioned deadlines, but I didn't do a review in terms of what we're talking about. So just give a quick recap for a new listener as to what our aim is, what we are about as a group, as a...
Well, the Ministry of Social Services is preparing a tentative list for submission to St. Kitts, which would form a part of the St. Kitts and Nevis UNESCO tentative list. And the tentative list for Nevis includes, I said 17, but when you consider all of the sites, some sites are more, should I say, comprehensive. They have more than one building. We have approximately 21 buildings to go forward. And at this point in time, we are filling in the forms provided for submission to UNESCO. And as I've said, we have completed most of them. But we are filling gaps now because it requires some research to understand why a site should be given priority over another Caribbean site. And so we are hoping we would have selected the best of our sites, so that there is very little, none of the other sites can compete in terms of the...
In other words, by the time the write-up is completed, we should have such a unique story that this story should stand out, stand tall.
Yes.
And it's all in that bid to make these sites part of the UNESCO World Heritage collections, right?
Yes. Well, that is the final...
the ultimate goal.
Yes, the ultimate goal. The thing is, at this point in time, this is a tentative list. So we're saying tentatively, these are the sites we're considering. Yes. And then after that, to make them World Heritage sites, you have to prepare a dossier and make an official request to have them become World Heritage sites. So what we have done is a serial nomination. We've listed a collection of sites, and once the theme is accepted, we will just then go one site
at a time.
And have them added.
Could we draw a scenario? Well, let me pause on that because we have to go to our first break. So we'll get back to that when we come back. We'll go to station identification and our first break, and we'll be right back.
Sugar City St. Kitts, keep it sweet. Keep listening to Vaughn.
We are in this together. World Heritage nomination. We are in this together, and we need the help of everyone. Nevis early colonial and agro-industrial landscape that is so beloved by all. We have the Bat Hotel and all the plantations. The forts and slave market are so vital. Share your information to all generations. We are in this together.
Well, thank you very much, and for those of you who have just locked into Von Radio, the powerhouse of the Eastern Caribbean, we are talking World Heritage. I'm Curtis Morton on behalf of the Nevis World Heritage Committee. Alongside me are Dawson Otley and Lilith Richards. And we just started, well, the program started with a brief salute to the late Amber Trott, and we are now doing some discussions in terms of the stated purpose of getting some sites here in Nevis being part of the UNESCO World Heritage collection. Now Lilith, in terms of the proposed sites, right, I was asking, could we draw a scenario? Could we say it's like, let's say I have some marbles and I want you to have those marbles, as a matter of fact, like a golden collection for you. But of course you have to look at the marbles and you will say, I want this one and I want that one. Now, I'm not going to bring one marble, so I'm going to bring maybe 20 marbles. They might vary in size, they might vary in color, they might vary in whether you remember that Dawson might know, he might be too young to know spall. When we say a marble spall, you ever hear that, Dawson?
Never heard that term, spall?
Spall. I said he was too young. Lilith, you know what I'm talking about?
Yes, I know.
That's when the marble is like bruised and so on, battered. Yeah.
Chipped off.
Chipped off, you know?
I know the joke, I never know the term.
Yeah, they say spall, right? So I bring all these, and I'm hoping that you'll probably choose 6, but I bring about 20. Would we say that's the case, or all of these proposed sites we're hoping would all be chosen?
We are presenting them so that all will be chosen.
Okay. Then there are no spally marbles in between there.
Hopefully not. There are some sites that we have a difficulty making a case for, because UNESCO would say their guidelines will state what they're looking for. So you have to say
how your story fits into those criteria.
What about this site? Why should this site be included? What's the integrity of the site? What is the authenticity of the site? And so, is this an authentic thing that was just rebuilt? And has any portion of it been adjusted? So such things like that. So then we have to select the sites that don't have too much adjustments to them,
which will make them spally.
Exactly. Modifications or anything like that. And the ones with a really great story are the ones that are still existing. They haven't moved. They haven't. Well, no, part of them have changed, and the owners make up that storyline. And so you would find that's a case for Montpellier, because it might seem like not the most authentic of all the sites, but it has a compelling story.
Okay.
About Lord Nelson. What's his name? Horatio Nelson and his wife. And yes, it is her home. It was her home, but it's where they were married. And then, as this story unfolded, the site becomes more interesting, because in the end they split up. She becomes Viscountess, and he loses an arm or a portion of his hand, and he is still the captain who fell in love here, and she's still a daughter of the soil.
True. And Nevis.
Yes. And so the story makes the site very interesting. There is no story like it.
It's unique.
Yes. So in that case, it crosses borders, so that you can say that it is an international story.
Well, Dawson, from your perspective as an individual, as a layman, if somebody was to ask, well, why are we spending so many hours educating people on the radio? Why are we spending so many hours doing so much research and stressing out ourselves and trying to ensure that this really happens? What's in it for us as Nevisians? If somebody was to wake up in the middle of the night and say, Dawson Utley, after all of this, what would be in it for Nevisians? What would your answer be?
Well, I would say it's more for, we want to get an appreciation, is having an appreciation for where you come from.
Okay.
It's having an appreciation because it's if you don't know where you're coming from, you don't know where you're going. And I'm going to segue as I come on that point. And coming from the last meeting, I wanted to highlight, as we talk about World Heritage, we want to talk about our people, because our people, the Nevisian people, and as Lilith alluded to, when she referred to Fanny Nisbet, a Nevisian, you're not looking at just those of the past, but we're looking at us today. We are living today, we are living heritage.
Okay.
And we want that the previous heritage, when it comes to people, their heritage, and those that are then the people of old, our ancestors, or those who resided on these lands, then they made a contribution to the development. They contributed, and then we see the stages of what people, because all of these historical sites that we have here are places of historical interest. They didn't just appear just as so. There were people had the resources, the major resources are people. People would have been involved. If there was no people, you wouldn't have been talking about heritage in that sense, because people had a significant role to play when it comes to our heritage. People, we are very important, very essential, vital in terms of developing and contributing to heritage. And so if somebody says, why are we doing this thing? We're doing it for us, for the people, for the benefit, for the sustainability. Sustainability ain't just we want some old stuff and we preserve it, but it's for sustainability of our future, our people, sustainability of our history, sustainability for our future. We want our people to be appreciated. I mean, if you look in other countries, look in the United States, they are big on the history. I mean, I've been talking about recent. I mean, this is on a bit of a dark side, because just 2 days ago, the United States marked 20 years. So there's the bright part. So there you go. There's when we talking world history, world heritage, we're on the same. We're looking at there is the light part, or the celebratory part of history, but then there also is the dark part of history. 2 days ago was the 20th anniversary of the terrorist attacks in the United States, in New York and Washington D.C. And that is, people, a lot of persons, because this is 20 years ago. I mean, I was a teenager when that happened, and you would ask, where were you? Because it wasn't an event that just affected, it impacted just the United States. It impacted the entire world, but it's something that is imprinted, and it's something that is revisited. In fact, this significant point in history changed the way we do things. It changed because it impacted air travel in particular.
Big time.
It changed the way we travel. So if you want to know we got to know why are things happening today. That's what we have to know about history, because we want to know why are the things that we are doing today, why it took place. What has happened? And so we have to go back to history. Why are the things that we have to travel? I know before September 11th, before September 11, 2001, we were required to check in 1 hour before departure time, and before departure time. September 11th happened, we have to check in 2 hours.
And I think COVID has made that even more complex now.
COVID has made it even more. It's amazing how things. I mean, COVID in itself. We're looking at history. We're looking at heritage. There's ongoing heritage right now. COVID is contributing to that, because COVID is now changing the way we do things. So we're saying that why we have to understand in general. So it's not just about the historical sites. It's not just about the landmarks. It's about our people. It's about activities. It's about everything. We're including all aspects. We're including everything possible as it comes to heritage. So when somebody wakes me up, I could tell you a whole story, and it just lock you in.
Right.
We tell the story, just like Let was talking about earlier. We're telling the story. We're locking people in, the interest.
Nice. Lilith, what's in it for the average Nevisan? Because what I've discovered about people nowadays, if you ask me to help you clean your yard, the natural response is, how much? Well, what's in it for me? People don't like to volunteer nowadays. There's only a few people like Dawson and Lilith still love to volunteer, and John Gilbert and Evelyn Henville and Curtis Morton and so on. but not a lot of people like to volunteer. So the natural question comes back, what's in it for me? So if a division was to ask, well, why all this hype about World Heritage? What's in it for us? What's in it for me? They're not even going to ask so much about the us part. Us is too general. What's in it for me? What would be your response?
Well, first thing, it's a national accomplishment. It's not individually. It's an accomplishment for St. Kitts and Nevis to have sites included on the World Heritage List. It says that this particular site has meaning to everyone, and everyone should know about it. And it should be protected so that it's here, not just for Nevisians, but for anyone from any part of the world. What it means to us, too, is that we have created something that is so valuable the rest of the world
Wants to get a piece of it.
Yes.
And the beautiful thing about it is, once these sites are allowed to be a part of the UNESCO collection,
Yes.
it attracts more people
Yes.
to us.
Yes,
It just
very
becomes
much so.
more. Look, there was a time I was in Jamaica, and Jamaica, another Caribbean island. I was studying in Jamaica, and a young man asked me about Nevis, and I was telling him, well, Nevis is the most beautiful island in the world, And he said, but I don't even see it on the map. Show me it on the map. Now, it was hard to point out that a little dot somewhere was Nevis. So he was like, okay. So, I mean, he even went as far as to say, so you're so small that if you press your gas pedal too hard, you'll end up in the sea. I mean, that's Jamaica, And he was so critical about the size and so on and so forth. And so the thing about making Nevis known to the rest of the world would be an achievement in itself, to get people to know more about this little island,
Yes.
and to come and to see the rich history and the heritage that we have. And because of their coming, that would drive the economy, that would help to put more money into the coffers of the average Nevisian,
That's right.
right? That makes a big difference, doesn't
Yes, it does.
Yes.
Right?
Yes, it does. And I often, when I was in New York, I would say to most people who talk about the size of Nevis, I would say to them, well, look at Manhattan. We're as big as Manhattan.
That's right. Maybe bigger. Yeah.
We're as big as Manhattan. And so I would say to them, it's got nothing to do with size, It's what you can do.
Right.
So as small as Manhattan is, it is one of the wealthiest, controls most of the business. It's a metropolis. Don't worry about the size.
And so we could use a term that is being used around here. We're small, but we
Tarawa.
And at that point, we'll take our second station ID and break, and we'll be right back.
When VON vibrates, the whole Caribbean must shake.
8:60 a.m. The Powerhouse.
We are in this together. World Heritage nomination. We are in this together, and we need the help of everyone. Nevis early colonial and agro-industrial landscape that is so beloved by all. We have the Bat Hotel and all the plantations. The forts and slave market are so vital. Share your information to all generations. We are in this together.
Thank you very much. And we are talking World Heritage on the Powerhouse of the Eastern Caribbean, VON Radio. I'm Curtis Morton on behalf of the Nevis World Heritage Committee, and we have other committee members in my company today, Dawson Utley and Lilith Richards, and we are talking about Nevis's bid to have certain sites here being a part of UNESCO's World Heritage Collection. Now, Lilith and Dawson, we grew up in an environment where a lot of stress is on tourism, and there's nothing wrong with that, because our economy, well, I was about to say is dependent, but I think there's a question mark on that now. I would say was dependent almost solely on tourism, but now we have to do alternate arrangements because COVID-19 has drastically changed that. But there was always this emphasis on tourists and tourism and welcoming the tourists, right? And like I said, I have no problems with that. But I've heard comments like, we're going to do this for the tourists. Now that's where I have a problem. My problem is, I don't want us to have that attitude of cleaning Nevis for the tourists. I think we should clean Nevis for us. And if Nevis is clean for us, when the tourist comes along, then they meet a clean Nevis and they enjoy what we are enjoying. Because I'm thinking that if no tourists come, then we won't want to keep Nevis clean. And so I want the people in our community to understand that this bid that is being made, we are not doing it just for UNESCO and for the tourists. We are doing it for us. We are preserving, we are maintaining, we are caring for us.
Yes.
And once we are part of it, then we know that I want to be a part of this because it's for us. And then when anybody else comes, they will say, wow, what you have here, you have gold here, man. What are your thoughts starting with Dawson?
I would say it's where the Nevision pride comes in big time. You have to have Nevision pride. You are on an island. We are at our home place. We shouldn't be doing it. And I'm going to take the angle a little different because we're looking at I don't want to go too much, but I've observed, and I'm not, well, I say living here in Nevis, being here in Nevis, I've observed even from a service standpoint, and that's a service. When you serve someone, you don't do it as a job. But it seems like people do it as a job. You do it because it is good for your well-being. It's a part of you. It's not. You don't just be when you're on the job. You do it for the job. You do it.
And then when you're somewhere else, you act differently.
Somewhere else, you act differently, and it's like we have to that attitude has to change, and it comes at the same thing when we are doing or recognizing our land or recognizing your place. Ensuring that we're not doing it just for the tourists. The tourists will benefit, but we are doing it. We're doing it for us. We're doing it for us. We're doing it because we have a pride. We have that pride that we are, and I mean, it's like your home. And good for your health too. When I say your sense, it's a sense of health, mentally, physically, spiritually, everything. All aspects. It
intertwined.
Yeah, it lifts it makes it your health, because I mean, if you look at a home, you're going to clean the home for a visitor. Part of it, but you do it for your own health. You have your place all unkept, and it's just in disarray and trash. Like, man, you look at it like, how can you sleep? How can you walk around the place just like that? No. So just for the whole, apply that to the entire all divisions, not just all. I don't want to say all divisions because we don't want to exclude the people who live here. All divisions and residents, citizens and residents. And I won't even say just Nevis, even though Federation, because we're seeing, as I would have mentioned in previous broadcasts, that we are seeing more Kittitians are coming over here. So we want Kittitians to take ownership too. Of that pride that we have here, and say and Nevisions will in turn do it when they go to St. Kitts, because a lot of Nevisions commute, or once they commute they travel to St. Kitts to a lot of Nevisions live in St. Kitts, so we see that significance. In fact, I think the joke is they say that Southeast Peninsula is owned by Nevis. That's a joke, but it's just a matter of we have to have that pride that is for our major great benefit, that we love our island, that we will keep it so, not do it just because a cruise ship coming in and we got to clean up the place. I'll bring a quick example. I remember, and this is kind of when I was studying in Barbados. I think there was a member of the royal family. That was like 9 years ago, 2012, and I was like, and I was kind of, I understand the government of Barbados spent $800,000
to prepare for that.
visit. I was like, oh, how ridiculous. It's like there was no prayer, because I said, you mean to say just because these people are coming in, you decide to just spend this whole thing of ton of money just for royalty, who already got probably more than that? And it's not to beat on the royal family, yeah? But if you had constantly maintained your place, you didn't have to spend that overarching thing of money just to make a little touch there and so for these people.
For that 15-minute visit.
So we don't want to come into that place as divisions in just doing this because we're seeing these people coming, but we're doing it all the time because it's a part of us. It's us.
Got you.
Yeah.
Your thoughts?
Yeah, I agree with what Lawson is saying, in that we should maintain what we have. We should maintain what we have, because if it's valuable to us, and if we consider these things to be valuable, we should indeed maintain them so that we can have them for much longer periods of time. I look at them as some things, artifacts that were handed down. As a matter of fact, they're in our care now. They were in another generation's care, and another one before them. And so, as they're handed down, we have to decide if we're the generation that will destroy them.
Wow.
And so I think to myself that if we demonstrate care, then the next generation will probably demonstrate care as well. So I hope that I've listened to a lot of Nevisions and their ideas. They also take them down.
Wow.
And one individual said to me, yeah, that's what they created, but now we have to show what we created.
Wow.
So my point is, but you can demonstrate what you can create without having to tear down what they built. I mean, I've often said to persons in town who have property, you move that, you will get something that has less value, and it's not constructed as properly as what you already have.
I wanted to make that point,
So it's in your best interest to maintain it than to have that removed and then put an inferior building in its place.
Lynette, you're into architecture and stuff, right? So you could guide me on this one. I've looked at some of these buildings, the stonework.
Yes.
It's not only the stonework, it's the way they're crafted, the way these stones are fitted in, the hurricanes they have gone through, the earthquakes they have gone through. And I'm thinking to myself, they look so good and they withstand all of these disasters. But then, hey, we have modern technology. So modern technology dictates that what we are doing now should be far superior, but I'm not getting that feel that what we are seeing now and doing now is so far superior. I don't know. You're the expert. Talk to me.
Well, it isn't, because the craftsmanship is not the same.
Okay.
And it's something that we fail to accept. Sometimes I was listening to a program as I worked today, and they were talking about ancient buildings, and the pyramids were built by aliens because they just couldn't conceive. They just couldn't conceive that people could have back then. But and I see it. It's so easy to understand that there was a discipline connected to the work they did. They did nothing else. And masons were masons. They weren't farmers. They weren't carpenters. They were masons. That's what they did. And all of their work and energy went into understanding how to set out buildings and how to construct buildings of this type. So today you have masons that are carpenters, masons that are farmers, masons that are something else, and they don't really dedicate the time
to their craft.
Right. You would get a mason who said to you, I don't want to do all that work because facing a stone is different. And it's easier to just set an irregular stone in the wall than to face it. So most of the masons today would not want to face a stone.
So they do more shortcuts.
Yes, because it takes time.
So I'm getting the impression then that, Dawson, when you look at a majestic building like the Bath Hotel, you stand at a distance and you look up because it's several, how many stories up? About 3 stories up, right? And it's 3 stories of magnificent stonework. So based on what Lilith is saying now, I'm thinking that building must have taken quite some time to be erected, because the impression I'm getting from the architect here, who is Lilith, the expert, is that each stone was carefully and wonderfully put in place, lovingly, if you may, put in place. It wasn't like, hey, we got to finish. You know, the building some houses now, and my understanding is that, okay, each contractor is given 6 months or whatever, and if you don't do it within 6 months, maybe there's some penalty, maybe you don't get enough, I don't know how it works, but you have a 6-month cut-off time, and so each contractor now has to, whatever they have to do, whether work midnight, get that thing finished by 6 months. But I don't get the impression that these guys had any timelines in terms of each stone now would be carefully and lovingly put in place, and everybody coordinate to make sure that this magnificent, I don't know, I'm just looking at a dream here, probably how it was done.
Yeah, you had to have the manpower, and you had to have the directions. The thing about it is that, as is most major building works, you require the resources to do it. You have to be sure that you have the finances and the labor and the expertise at hand. And we know that all people came from Africa to provide the labor. And we know that there was a lot of money being made due to sugar, to the production of sugar. So the financial resources were here. And we also know that architects came down from England to prepare drawings and to oversee works.
Okay.
So we know that the resources were available for them to do the work.
And the guys had skill.
And the guys were skilled masons. So it's not inconceivable, you know. It's just that we have moved. I hate to say backwards, but yes, we have moved backwards because major construction works are being done. Don't have architects or engineers overseeing it.
Wow.
Yes, you may have the resources, but the labor force is not the same.
And maybe that is why some of them don't stand the test of time in terms of some of these hurricanes and earthquakes, because maybe they are at fault somewhere, not being supervised, not being properly double checked and all that.
And the material we have for construction is also
the quality.
Also a problem.
Okay, we'll take our final break and we'll be right back.
Sugar City St. Kitts, keep it sweet. Keep listening to Vaughn.
We are in this together. World Heritage nomination. We are in this together, and we need the help of everyone. Nevis early colonial and agro-industrial landscape that is so beloved by all. We have the Bat Hotel and all the plantations. The forts and slave market are so vital. Share your information to all generations. We are in this together.
So thank you very much, and we're back for our final 15 minutes. I'm Curtis Morton on behalf of the Nevis World Heritage Committee, and you're locked into Vaughn Radio, the powerhouse of the Eastern Caribbean, and we're talking World Heritage, and with Dawson Utley and Lilith Richards, 2 other members of the Nevis World Heritage Committee. As we conclude on today's program, I want us to look at another aspect that is very concerning at this point. Some people feel that if I own a particular building, be it historic or not, it is my building. And so if it is my building, I have a right to do whatever I want to with it. It's my building. My understanding, Lilith, is that there are some laws that protect these historic sites from being transformed out of whack. Could you talk us through a little bit about that?
There are laws. A few buildings or a few sites receive specific protection. Under NCPA, you have Bath Hotel.
Okay.
And in Charlestown, there's a zoning plan ordinance that address the development of any development within what it calls the historic district.
Okay.
And I believe that NCPA also speak to heritage sites under the sea. There are several shipwrecks and other
so even like the
submerged.
Christina,
Yes.
this site, the Christina disaster site there.
Yes, these would be considered heritage sites. Unfortunately, we have not taken the opportunity to earmark the Christina site as a heritage site and protect it specifically, considering how important it is to Nevis.
That's true.
It's something we perhaps want to do. So that if you're running cables, you can't just decide, well, just pass through that. You know, that we could say, look, sorry, you have to go around. There are certain things that have to be spelled out in the law, so that the persons who review development plans can be guided, to say what is being protected and how it ought to be modified.
And Dawson, there's also the habit of some persons to go on some of these heritage site areas, and take up artifacts, whether it's stones or other bits of material, because it looks good, and they feel, okay, this can decorate my property, or this can decorate whatever. What are your thoughts on that?
I would say it's disturbing, because I think I saw some years ago. I saw someone took up the boiling. Let me go back to, we look at the river as an example. I think I mentioned it in the last broadcast. The river, last sugar mill to operate on Nevis in late 1950s. It would have concluded. They're doing some restoration of it. I noticed when I took some visits there. There's a section where they have the boiling pots, and I think a few of them have been taken out. Maybe there's one left. There's one left, and it's like missing heritage, I would say, because we have learnt in school, at least those who pay attention to history, about the sugar production. Then yes, the enslaved Africans were the ones who primarily run those operations. That's the dark part of it, but there was also the skill part of it. And persons would have been informed about these boiling pots, and they're right here live here in Nevis, and people are taking them and using them for other things. It's like, go back to what I said in the beginning, the lack of knowledge or the lack of understanding about our heritage.
But you know, Dawson, what I've discovered is that it's all about money, because when you say boiling pots, Lilith, are we talking about coppers, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
And what my understanding is that people who sell coppers, or people who buy coppers rather, pay a pretty penny.
Yeah.
Because I have a copper at home. I didn't take it from the river. I have a copper at home, and somebody is telling me that if I sold that, how much money? They didn't tell me, but it's a couple $1,000 well, you know how much money you could make from that, because somebody has sold somebody else and they got how many $1,000. So when they see these, people say, well, I'm going to steal. Well, they don't think they're stealing. They think it's a Nevis thing, and if it's Nevis, then I could take it up. And so they take it up, and it's all about money, trying to sell it to make money, and it's definitely not the way to go.
Yeah, because unfortunately they're also selling their heritage and they don't realize it. It's unfortunate.
You know what that reminds me of? That reminds me of a story I heard a long time ago. I heard a story about a particular lady who worked at a hotel. And so she would have worked there many years. So I'm equating it to us here living in Nevis as Nevisians, living here for many years. And so we have this sense of ownership. Nevis is my home. Nevis is my island. And if we use the theory of some other persons, we'll say, well, it's God's land. And if it's God's land, then it's my land. You know, I could do what I feel like.
Yes.
And so she had this sense of ownership that I would have worked at this hotel for 25, 30 years. And so because I've worked at this hotel 25, 30 years, and the money is small, the pay is small, then I have a right to certain things. And so what she did was to go home every afternoon with a towel.
I'm sorry.
So she would take up a towel every afternoon and go home because it's my right. I work here long enough. I could take up a towel. I don't know what she did with them, but she just had it that this was her sense of thing. So when people go to these heritage sites and feel this sense of ownership that I could just take up these stones and put them in my front yard because it looks fancy. You know, it has no worth here where it's at, you know. I could break out a piece here and take that and break out a piece. They're damaging what we have, you know.
It is the same we've seen that with the rise in certain, well, I don't even want to say the economy, because we are not the ones who really want the coppers. We are not the ones who really want to loot the sites, because they don't really have any meaning for us. But we know they are important to somebody else.
Yeah.
And so therefore, sure, I'll give it to you. It's the same way they say that when Europeans went to Africa, diamond was floating down the river. Gold was washing up on the coast. Well, it didn't mean anything to most people.
Exactly.
But it meant something to someone else in the end. And then industries were built around them. And it's the same thing we have. Those coppers and stones, keystones, they've been there for ages. And we didn't even look at them because they had no meaning to us.
But somebody saw value.
Somebody saw value in them. And they're willing to pay good money for what? That?
Yeah.
Oh, sure, man, I can get you another one. Sure, man, how much you say you're willing to pay for that?
5,000.
Yeah.
5,000? Oh, sure, man. I know I could find a couple.
Wow.
And this is how it all changed. But I think we as a people have to, I don't want to say it's greed, but the lack of respect we've had for heritage site is what caused us to do this. So if it was valuable to us, we wouldn't. So we have to learn to value them.
How could we get this sense of value embedded in our fellow divisions? I mean, that's what we are talking about. This sense of ownership, this sense of pride, this sense of I'm going to protect it for me, for my generation, for my children, for Nevis. This is Nevis. I'm part of Nevis, and we love Nevis. How do we get that embedded in the average resident here?
Well, what to say? It's not I would say not a easy breezy thing. It's gonna take some. We have to be is a consistent thing, and that's one of our roles as a World Heritage Committee. We're not just in a bid to put up these sites. As
that's
World
our
Heritage.
only job. No,
That's not just our role. It shouldn't be our role. So I hope that whoever, and I'm hoping that whoever is on the World Heritage Committee, if they're hearing or even hear the recording of this is not just our role, just to make a bid to put these places of historical interest on Nevis towards the World Heritage. We need to. This is where our role is now. To educate, to inform, to sensitize. That's our role as a World Heritage Committee, not just for the support, because we could still get the bid or get the nomination, and still we don't our sites are unclear.
means nothing. Right?
And it means nothing, because there's a reason why we're putting it out there, because we want to make Nevis somewhat more marketable in a sense, but also, you know, we were looking at getting it's a consistent. You can't do it in one aspect, one blow. So
Quick one,
Yeah.
Yvette. We have a few minutes. I'm reminded of another story. I love stories. I'm sure y'all would have recognized that. As a public health inspector many years ago, I was in another country, and a guy told me that he went to speak to a lady about getting sanitary conveniences on her premises because apparently she would go into the bushes, and the law states quite clearly that you must have these sanitary conveniences. And so he talked to her, and she was given a lot of problems. She said she was comfortable out there. And so he told her about the health concerns and the dangers and all that. He gave him, big lecture. And then she still wasn't. So he said, okay, you know what? I'm ordering you now to get it in another 1 month, within 1 month. Otherwise, I'll have to take it to court. So in 1 month he went back, and the lady has this fantastic place built in the yard. She even put carpet on the floor, and she had a connecting light thing from the house, the main house, And so he said, wonderful, you've done it, you've done the job. And she said, yes, but I still use the bush. so we don't want, as Atley is saying, to reach a point where, okay, we achieved the goal, but the people's heart are not in it. It still doesn't mean a thing to them. Final thoughts quickly as we close.
Well, it was really a pleasure to be here. This Talking World Heritage. And I do look forward to continued discussion, continued conversation with the general public, and how we can inform. This is one of the platforms, and I hope that can continue.
Lynette, final word.
Hopefully, we from this exercise we can convince the Ministry of Education to include some heritage sites in their social studies program,
Yeah.
so that younger people can
start from the children.
Yes, yes.
Wonderful. And so, folks, we thank you so much for joining us today for another edition of Talking World Heritage. And I'm Curtis Morton on behalf of Lilith Richards and Dawson Utley. We want to bid you a wonderful afternoon, and we say a special good afternoon to the other members of the committee who are listening, and we bid you a peaceful and blessed evening.
We are in this together. World Heritage nomination. We are in this together, and we need the help of everyone. Nevis early colonial and agro-industrial landscape that is so beloved by all. We have the Bat Hotel and all the plantations. The forts and slave market are so vital. Share your information to all generations. We are in this together.
You're listening